So, welcome to my home garage again. We did the cabinets, we've done the lights, did the mini split, did the insulation in the attic, did the magic stairs, magic lift, did lots of electrical, lots of wiring, speaker wires. So it was a low voltage, high voltage, Cat 6 we ran throughout the house. And so the next project here in the garage is to get my cabinet mounted and my pressure washing system set up. And so I started working on this here this week. Got a little ahead of you in that I did some of the plumbing and stuff and braced the wall here, put some I don't know if you want to call it stringers, but I put some 2x in the wall to hopefully solidify it. I've already stuck some rock wool in here. But if we back up a little bit, this garage, 3-car plus, we'll call it 3-car plus a 10x10 golf cart garage. It has an 8-foot door on the other side behind the camera here. But if you'll remember, if you go back and watch the original videos when I first moved into the house, this is where the air handler and the ductwork for the return and the supply for the house was set up. And so we had the air handler, where was it? I think the air handler was here. The return came down this side, and then one underneath there was a big platform here. And so there was a 2x4 sort of set up platform. Here's our drain lines and all that stuff in the floor. And so I paid, several thousand, many thousands to get that out of here, up into the attic. And that gave me this shrine to my pressure washer. So here's what we got thus far. I'm going to grab the camera, hand hold it, show you what I've done for this or what my idea here is. I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but this is the way I'm doing it. It seems to be a decent idea. But with the house had metal studs and had open cell insulation, which of course open cell isn't a very good sound deadening material. And so I'm putting in this safe and sound rock wool. So let me grab the camera, I'll hand hold this here and show you. First thing we did was removed the air handler. So that came out. So this wall had to be patched, still needs to be textured. My painters are going to come and do all of that. The ceiling also had to be patched here. And notice the position of my ZR troffer from Cree Lighting. Go check that out, that video out on doing those. These aren't the perfect lighting solution. They're the perfect light. I don't know if it's the perfect solution, meaning that it sticks off the darn wall a bit too much. So here's the cabinet. This is the 20-inch wide, 30-inch wide by roughly 80-inch tall saber cabinet that I'm going to float. So I'm going to float it from the height, the same height that I have these. So I'm going to float that cabinet at the exact same height here, so there'll be some room underneath. And I thought about floating it from the stem wall up, but I think that I'm just going to move the cabinet up to the same height. And so first thing I had to do when we pulled the drywall off was to get a water line in. The water heater and all the supply lines to the house for plumbing were here. We also took that out of the garage, moved it, and while I did that, I had the plumber bring me a line down from the attic. And so that line was sitting here with a valve on it that I just cut off. So there was a 90 with a valve that I cut off. And so I'm doing this kind of odd setup here. The Prior P114, this is the best cold water hose bib on the planet. It's like $200 and something, solid as a rock, a big hunk of iron. But it has you can see, this is a frost-proof, frost preventer. The tube comes all the way out to here. And so I'd either have to put a block on the wall to block it off, or I came up with this idea, since I'm right on the corner here, I'm going to put it on the corner. I know it seems a little weird. It's going to look better when I get the setup because I'm going to be doing some stainless shelves and I'm doing some tile here. Plus this is going to bump out another inch or so when I get the tile and everything set up. And I'm going to be doing a sheet of plywood as well. So the supply line for this 1/2-inch CPVC comes down to here. I just kind of did this little janky because I did it on the back side of the wood. What I should have done, I didn't think about this ahead of time, I should have put the wood or the bracing behind the line, but whatever, it worked out okay. And so you can see here, I cut it off, put a 90 in, 90 comes over, I'm teeing off. One section goes straight into the hose bib. Second will supply my 1/2 inch NPT female with a plug on it, because that's where my Prevost piping is going to come out for my water entry into the pressure washing system on the deionizer. And so that's the water setup in the wall. Now we have a electric line coming. This is a switched line that runs down to this box behind the insulation, which is going to the room behind it. This is a dedicated, this was line for, I think, the water heater that now we're using. Yeah, that was the water heater line that is a dedicated 30 amp or a dedicated, whatever, number 6 wire. I think it's a 6 gauge wire. That runs back to a separate 20 amp breaker. So I have a dedicated 20 amp breaker because we're going to do the AR 630 TSS in this garage here. And then I also had a quad outlet, which I'm going to cut out the back of the cabinet. So I have a quad outlet in the cabinet in case I need it. So you can see my methodology here, doing some lateral, some cross bracing to sort of stiffen up the wall a bit. You probably could do more, but I think that's going to be more than sufficient. So I ran some 8-foot 2x4s up to where are the 8-foot ends, put a cross brace across it, braced them left to right. And so now this wall is pretty darn sturdy. It's all going to pull together. I probably could have skipped that. And I've never done this before, but you figure this wall is quite a bit sturdier than just the metal studs. If you're doing just metal studs, once you put the drywall on, it becomes really sturdy. But I want to try to reduce vibration. And so these are all tacked to the footer. So I have the 2x4s tacked to the footer. They're also screwed in probably 10 spots into the metal stud. And then I'm going to put a sheet of 3/4 inch finished plywood on this wall. I'm going to cover the whole wall with plywood, and then this entire wall is going to get a membrane. We'll probably do a Schluter. I don't think Dietrich. Dietrich is what you do on the floor. I think it's Ketra. Schluter Ketra is what somebody suggested I do. So there'll be a membrane on that plywood, which we'll show you that as well. And then make sure there's no water. Yeah, good. It was a metal. It looked like there was some shiny. It looked like there's some water there coming out. But this is going to have, I'll show you the tile that we're going to do. I'm going to tile this whole wall. I'm going to tile possibly that whole wall, but I think I'm going to stop the wall at some point in the middle, and my stainless shelves are going to go there. So think 30-inch cabinet, shelf with the pressure washer, hose reel, piping package, deionizer. Pipe comes out, goes in, goes up, and I have my custom pressure washing setup. I pull the hose line out this way, which shoots right out the garage door, and we have ourselves a setup. And with dedicated power, because the AR630 draws about 19 amps at peak, and so we want to make sure we have the appropriate power for that. So I think I'm going to call it quits for tonight. I'm going to need some help. Actually, you know what? Let me get the rest of the insulation in here. It's rock wool, and we'll do that on camera, and just filling in these last little patches here. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it somehow. So I'm going to fill in this gap as well, and then we will probably tomorrow get some help, have my dad come over or something, and get some help to set up the plywood, tack it to the wall, and it's going to really solidify this whole wall setup. It's going to make it super stout. And then once we do the tile, which can make it a little more difficult for us to mount the shelving and all that stuff, but once we do the tile, it's going to be really, really nice looking. All right, so this is Rockwool Safe and Sound. Let's see, it's the orange kind. This is a soundproofing slash insulation. And I'm going to have to trim it up here a bit to get into position. Yeah, I I think I'm going to cut this around this piece here and get it set up. Who's texting me? Apparently no one. Okay, the rest of these pieces, actually let's do this one first. This one will be a little easier. So I'm going to take this. Isn't as nasty as normal fiberglass insulation, but still not super exciting to get all over you. Probably should be using a mask of some sort. What I want to do, I really want to tuck this behind here, get this in here. I think what I should do, I think the thing would be put a slit around the back here. I'm going to bring this pipe, put it inside of the foam, so that way it doesn't bounce around. Like so. And let's a little slit down the back. Extra, jam it in here. Again, this isn't super critical. I'm never going to be washing when my son is sleeping, but a little insulation certainly isn't going to hurt. Got just enough for this to, really a little bit extra. Last section to do. Oh, I gotta do this little pocket here. I don't know how beneficial that's gonna be, but I'm gonna do it anyway. One past piece to spare. Nice. Now I get soundproofing, you've really got to be, you really can't have pockets and things. I'm not too concerned about being perfect soundproofing. I just want it insulated. Plywood's going to help a lot too. Cockroach. Bro, get out of my wall. Split that in half. Just tuck it in there, like so. We'll push that in. Looks good. Nice. All right, that's it for tonight. I'll see you tomorrow. All right, welcome to tomorrow. The things coming together. I'm really proud of my, all these years I've been watching all this stuff. I finally decided to use some of this technique that I've been learning. It's different. I don't feel obligated to do this. I feel like I could hire someone to do this, but or convince some friend to come and do this with me. But done this myself. So I got the cutout here for my hose bib. I'm sorry, not hose bib, for the inlet to the pressure washer. So that's here. Part of the reason why I wanted to do wood in the wall, other than to brace it, was to give me something more solid to grab onto rather than metal studs. And so I did the full sheet. So you can see the full sheet of plywood right there. So this is the 4x8 sheet. And the concept of the nice thing here is I won't have any seam to worry about for the membrane that's going to go over top of this. And so it's going to be interesting to see. I haven't done this yet where I've done a pressure washer over top of tile, which I'm sure is going to add another little layer of complication to not crack the tile, but still get a solid enough position to mount the CR Spotless, the shelf, and the hose reel. So I'll have to mount it to that. But here's the 4x8 sheet. Here's my dedicated 20 amp for the pressure washer. Now this has Perry put on these adjustable boxes, so you turn the screw here and you can pull it in and out depending on how far the membrane in the tile comes by just turning the knob. Same thing here. My cabinet's going to go here. So I just cut this sheet. I'm putting some wood screws in, and just wanted to show you all the tools that I'm using for this. So I'm using a Milwaukee countersink. This is a 9/64 countersink, a little pointy tip, and then notice it has like a little auger here that makes a nice little recessed area for the head of the screw to go into the plywood. This plywood's soft enough that you could probably just drive the screw in further, but I figure why not do it the right way. This is Milwaukee. I have all this stuff in the store. It's super helpful if you buy this stuff from me, but I have a 2504. It's a 2504 little screw or a little drill, and I'm driving the screws in with the impact driver. This is the 2853. Brand new. This is the first use I've got with this M18. And then I'm using Milwaukee. What size is this? This is the T20 3.5 inch to drive the screws in. And then these are Torx heads. And so I'm driving these in flush. And again, I'm going to have a little gap here because there's no stud running down the middle here. It doesn't matter much because I'm going to mount the cabinet first. So as soon as I get this, I'm going to cut out the back of the cabinet after I mount the top piece there. And we're going to tile up to the cabinet. I was thinking about tiling behind the cabinet, but because I'm going to be tiling up to the cabinets on the rest of the wall here on the main area of the garage, so over here. So I'm going to be tiling up to the edge of the cabinet, and the bottom of the cabinet's on the ceiling. I figure, well, it'd be less tile, because this tile is like 16, 17 bucks a square foot, something like that. And so if I cut out like 7 by 3, so like 20 something square feet, I mean, then it probably crack the tile anyway, driving the cabinet on there. So anyway, so here's my line of wood that I put in, and then I've got a metal stud over here, so I'm going to do drywall screws there, drive that in on the side, and then I've got a really solid wall here with the insulation to kind of, I don't know what I call it, soundproof, but sound reduce and reduce the vibration that we have on the back side of this, and then we'll do a nice little joint here with the tile. So this is pretty flush, but doesn't have to be super, super perfect. And I swear this hose bib over here on the side looks really weird where it's at, but I think this is going to work. There's only one way to learn these things is to try it. I think this is going to work out well in where my shelves are going to go next to it. And then my buckets are going to get stored underneath here, and it'll just be easier to kind of shuffle the bucket from left to right as I'm using the bucket filler to fill it up. So that's the plan. And I think I mentioned this earlier, I'm doing T316 shelves, which I've never done before. Cost a lot more, like probably 50-60% more than a T304 shelf. But the idea there is that 316 is salt, water resistant, much more chemical resistant. So hopefully I won't get the ring that kind of builds up over time if you have bottles that leak or stuff that seeps out of your spray bottle. But anyway, I wanted to get you up to date with what I'm doing here. Kind of doing this video a little differently since I'm doing something pretty darn boring here and just driving in some screws. I'm finding it more difficult over time to shoot my own videos. You get really spoiled having a camera operator, especially when your camera operator is like a legit cinematographer. Let's put another one here. And then we'll put some down. Ow, dang, that's hot. Hit something there. Let's get this corner one in here. It's going to give us a real solid base. That's on there solidly. Nicely done, Maddie. Nice and flush. This is pulling in a little bit, which there's not much I can do about because there's no stud there. But this will pull it out a little bit too when I get down the side. And again, this is going to be behind the cabinet. The cabinet is 30 inches, so it's going to come all the way out to here. So the cabinet will cover up the seam here, the seam here. Good stuff. I'm sort of debating putting my Swiss tracks down and then putting the Swiss tracks down and then pulling it back up. I don't know, I have to think about it when I cut the floor. Screws, these are just some 1.5-inchers. So we don't need it to go as deep since it's just a metal stud. Let me get a magnetic tip on this thing. See, that's why I put wood in the wall back there. I feel like it sturdies it up and gives me something more solid to fasten to. I know metals can be plenty strong, but let me see if a drywall screw grabs that a little better. Nope, that doesn't grab it at all. See, that's pretty darn solid. What I've learned is that I don't have to so much keep the sound out of the garage. Or keep the sound from the garage out of the house. Got to keep the sound from Ryan screaming in there playing Fortnite in the garage. All right, so I'm going to cut the top piece there, and again, we'll tile that whole thing. They are going to have a seam, but I think that the Dietra, the Schluter, will cover up any little crack here. But hopefully, actually, I'm going to cut one piece, so the only crack will be up there. It's the only connection. So I'll come back and show you that when it's done. All right, so we're all set up. I've got the upper piece mounted. The wall isn't straight, so I had this all nice and flush looking, and you can see there's a slight little gap there at the top because of the wall and floor not being totally flush and square. And then I had to take the jigsaw to the edge here and just shave the edge off because the wall is kind of bowed. It's bowed outward, and I did factor that in when I was doing my cut and my measurement. But we'll just fill that with inset, and then it'll be backed by membrane. And so, again, it's not acoustically sealed, but we got the gist of it. So now I'm going to cut the cabinet. So I've got to cut it for this outlet up here. I'm going to mount the cabinet in place. It goes on 4 paint cans. That's the height of my whole array over here. We'll call it 4 paint can height. And so I'll have the same height over here on this cabinet. And then we'll have a tile guy come and do the tile. So let me show you all the tools that I ended up using for this setup here. A lot of people are questioning me when I'm the garage guy, right? But I'm doing mostly car stuff. But I think you need real man tools, I call them. I guess car guy stuff is real man stuff too. But you need a jigsaw for cutting out holes, like I'm cutting out the hole on this cabinet. I'm going to need the jigsaw for. And so same thing, you need a circular saw, you need a multi-tool. And so I used a 2737. These are all the tools that I have in the Obsessed Garage store. The OG package is 47 tools. They're all up, they're all in stock, they're all available. It's just that I'm waiting on stock for a few more things so I can launch my master collection accessory package. Like this here is all of the accessory, drill bits and all that stuff I have set up, but I'm working on putting a whole package together. I think you need the M18 multi-tool. So this is a 2836-22 or 20. I like the M18. They just came out with this 3 or 4 or 5 months ago. This is the oscillating tool for cutting stuff. I use this for a few things like shaving the drywall down so it was flush, cutting the base 2x4 on the bottom next to the stem wall there, cutting that flush. So I use that tool. And then I use these. I use the little baby drill. So this is the 2504 with a 5/16 countersink bit, and I use the 1/4 inch impact, which is 2553, and I use the 1/4 inch M18 impact 2853. And then you want this guy. If you're ever cutting anything, this thing is freaking awesome. I was gonna go get my table saw at the garage. But this made quick work. This is the rear handle 2830 circular saw with just the stock blade on. I've got all the Milwaukee blades, so I'll probably put a finer tooth blade on there for doing projects like this in the future. But anyway, I'm going to work on the cabinet and I'll come back to you when I get that done. All right, people, so that's a wrap. Got the cabinet mounted, towels replaced. I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with this bottom here. We'll lose 3/4 of that when the Swiss Trax goes in, but once I got this all cleaned up, everything looking good, got the towels put in place. I actually came over here, cleaned all this crap up, so it's ready for the open house. I got the tile sitting over there. I'll return that $65 piece of plywood. And I actually took all the pressure washing stuff, put that in the attic. I'll get rid of this garbage can. It's going to be leaving here. I just had this here because I knew we were going to be doing lots of work. So that's a wrap on the last little things I'm doing before we do the lift on the floor. So I guess there's not a lot of little things. There's a lot of big things I'll have to do. I do hose reels. I got to finish the lights. We got to paint the thing. Got to do the backsplash. Obviously install the pressure washer. I'm feeling good about my setup here though. The cabinet's nice and flush, the same height as the rest of the garage. What I may end up doing is some sort of trim piece down there. I'm not sure where the buckets are going to be stored. I have to bring and put the bikes in. I've got some bike lifts that'll be coming here soon. Anyway, thanks for watching this, setting up, doing the prep work you'd have to do for a pressure washer. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you soon.